again, everyone. It seems like we were just talking to you.
I know, because we were.
We were, yeah.
It's still Tuesday.
That's right.
So the meeting happened.
It did.
And it was a good meeting.
It did. A lot of things were going on.
It was a short meeting, but there was a lot more information than I thought there would be, so that's good. I'm glad to see a good board doing good things and positive vibes. At a loss for words.
Well, a lot of the stuff that happened in the meeting, and we have a lot of notes here to go through, is a lot of the stuff's not even on the agenda. And I question why not. I mean, you can add it to the agenda and amend the agenda and then vote on it and ratify it. But I don't know. You always did like a 1 or 2 page agenda. It had a lot of detail. You almost ran the meeting right on the board. But it, having a nice agenda makes the meeting have a nice even flow, and then you don't miss anything. But with a blank agenda,
I like to over-inform. Maybe that's my problem.
With a blank agenda, now you're kind of like all over the place, and you don't know if you catch everything. So I always liked
and that was another big reason that I love to put so much in there, is because once a month, you only have it once a month. So you want to make sure you smack it all in there, and if it's on the agenda, then you're not going to forget about it.
Right.
So.
And you can edit your agenda throughout the month all the way up to the meeting. So when you get to the meeting, it shouldn't be that much to change or add. It's, you do it as you go, not at the last minute, 30 minutes before the meeting. I don't know that they do that, but I'm just saying.
Either way, it was nice to see that more stuff was on there and got addressed.
Right.
So, like I predicted, there was more people at this meeting than what has previously been there. A rough count of about 10 or 11 people in the audience. Some unfamiliar faces were there, as well as some familiar faces.
Yeah.
So I did see Russell was there, right?
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Yep.
I didn't really see him, but that's what I heard. And you had, the normal Richard was there.
Thomas Collins was there.
Thomas was there. You had DJ Radis there.
And his friend, Melissa, was there.
So you had some of the normal people that you see there.
Yep.
And so there were more people. That's good to see.
And there are a few people walking in the door that I didn't really recognize.
No, but
that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that people want to know what's going on, as long as everybody's respectful to each other.
Right.
That's what you want. Positive, respectful people.
Yeah.
I don't like when everybody gets so filled with drama. So it's nice to see good stuff happening. Another nice thing to see was all the pictures on the wall.
Yeah, back on the wall, yeah.
So those look so great. I know Belinda had told me before that the only reason they were down is because they were painting the ceiling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She didn't want paint to get on, which I wouldn't either. I mean, that cost a bit of money to have those pictures done so nice as she did. So it's a beautiful job that Belinda had done, and I congratulate how well the town hall looks.
And everybody was at the meeting. All the board members showed up except for Joseph, but he hasn't been showing up.
Yeah, so that's pretty much a given that he wasn't going to be there. He's pretty much done for this term.
They don't even talk about him anymore. So we have an election coming up, so them seats will be full again.
I mean, to fill that vacant seat at this point is pointless.
You almost can't fill it before the election now. It's too late.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you have to put in letters of interest and vote on it. It takes several months to fill a vacant seat.
Right.
So
too late.
At that point in the game, there would be no point, because you might get that person seated for one meeting.
Not even.
And if
there's only one meeting left.
Well, at this point, yes. But I'm saying if you backed
previously,
it up.
yeah, right.
But the point is, with a good board and everything going forward, it doesn't really matter that seat is vacant.
Yeah.
So it's just good to see, again, a good board. So they started out with approving the agenda. And the minutes from the previous meeting all went well. And the first thing they were talking about was doing a vote with accepting the precedence that has been set in the campgrounds in the town for You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, I didn't want to cut you off. So I know a little bit about this. They have a really old ordinance that had been ignored, and no one had abided by it anyway. But I don't think it really ever came into play because the campgrounds never had more than 20 sites until we built more than 20 sites.
And that old ordinance
Right.
was basically a cut and paste from a much bigger town, which you'll
Yes.
find a lot throughout the ordinances, which it's fine to go look up this information from other towns, but then when you bring it into a small town, you need to tailor it.
Yeah, you need
And
to
they didn't
tailor
do
it.
that.
They didn't. They cut, they paste, they sign, they submit. They don't
Sorry
think.
to interrupt.
They don't think. So what it was, and I don't even know why they applied it to this small campground. It had 13 spots when I bought it. We expanded it to 24. So this ordinance basically states if you have more, I think it's more than 20 or 20 or more, but anyway, more than 20 spots, you're supposed to pave the roads. Well, here's the problem. If you go to paving the roads, you're going to have to get a whole bunch of permits because it's going to require you to get some engineers to from water management to come in and approve, and you're going to have to get some engineer drawings to get a retention pond. Because what you're doing is when you're putting in paved roads, you're not allowing for water that falls, rain that falls to dissipate into the ground. It hits the road and it runs off, but that doesn't count. So you can only have so many square foot of non-permeable road surface. In the campground, you're allowed up to 4,000 square feet per lot, I guess, per ownership lot. Now the campground, if you were to subdivide it, then you could kind of cheat and get 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. But that's not how it's written out. You have 4,000 square feet of semi-permeable substance. So what we used was what everybody uses really is lime rock because rain will hit it and it acts like a road surface, but it kind of goes through it. It just goes through it more slowly. So you're limited. So what the ordinance states basically is what it is what it forces, is what the intention was to force a campground with 20 or more lots to have to do asphalt pavement, which would have required you to have retention ponds, which would have required you to get an engineer to draw retention pond drawings, much like what Zim had to do. Very costly. It's cost prohibitive. So what it was doing, it was choking out that small campground so you couldn't have really more than 20 lots without running into problems. So what they're doing, what they did was they're trying, how did they word it?
Well, basically, since the campground already has these spots in there, it has set a precedence that you would not need to pave them.
Yeah, because it's been like that for a while, and there's been no enforcement, and there really is no code enforcement.
So in
Otter Creek,
order to make it official and be in the books and the ordinances, you have to do a vote that this is the way it is, and this is a precedence, so that later on down the road you don't have problems with misinterpretations of things.
Yeah, maybe I didn't.
You did not.
Maybe I didn't explain it that well, the legalese part of it, but. Not to cut you off, but I was just, what we're trying to say is we're trying to say, hey, there was a precedent set, it was never enforced. So because it's never been enforced, you set a precedence that we're not going to enforce it, basically. Correct?
The way I would say it is that they had old language in the ordinances. There has been a precedent set because nothing was paved in existing campgrounds, which overrides this bad language in these old ordinances. So now you're voting on what's going on. So going forward, there's no issues with this bad language in this old ordinance. So you're bringing it more into the 20th century, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
So...
Anyway, we won't beat the dead horse. That's what that was about.
20 minutes later, sorry about that. So then they were also talking about the whole thing with the finding an engineer with the community center. If you remember, they had an engineer to do the community center and they backed out. Then I believe they did an advertisement to try to find a new engineer with no response. So the problem they're having is they can't find anybody who wants to do a project that's that small.
Right.
So
basically, there's no money in it for them.
So that conversation kind of got lost into a conversation about the water plant, and they never really got back to what they were talking about with the community center or how they're going to go forward to find an engineer. Now, as Megan suggested, it's your best practice to run an ad to try to hire somebody, but they did do that already with no response. So I don't know what they're going to do at this point.
That's because nobody reads the paper. Didn't we allude to that earlier?
And I would think that at this point, it's probably kind of way past being time sensitive to where what's going to happen with this grant money. Do you have an allotted time to use it?
Send it back.
So I don't know those issues with that. Hopefully they can figure that out. I don't know how they'll find an engineer and there's also a lot of companies that don't want to come into Otter Creek because it's kind of far for them. So it's not worth the travel, especially if they deem it to be too small and not in their interest.
Right. And we were kind of against the whole community center because we don't think the town is going to support it, just like they don't really support the meetings. They're not going to come to it. They're not going to be able to maintain it over time. I think the town would be better off giving that money back and let it go down the grant pipeline down to another town that could possibly use it.
I mean, perhaps way in the future, a community center would be helpful to the town. There needs to be a lot of things that change in that town to be able to support the community center, but it was voted on. That's what was wanted. Yeah. So at this point, it doesn't really matter.
That's just them wanting free stuff.
So
here's free stuff.
Hopefully they can figure that out and whatever happens.
But as you know, free stuff isn't always free. Like, hey, here's some free health care. No, it's not free. They're just going to take it out of your taxes. It's not free.
So then the conversation went into talking about the water plant and the pressure tank needing to be replaced. So I guess they need a 60,000 gallon tank because it keeps losing pressure when the water goes out.
If they lose power, then the pumps, these are new pumps. These are big pumps, actually. This is on plant number 2. This is over on the grade. They call it the grade. It's a road that's it's graded. It's not a paved road. So they call it the grade. It's actually right behind the town hall off to the left a little bit. So it's the plant 2. It's the brand new building. It's the tall building with, I think there's 2 or 3 pumps in there. I can't remember now if it's 2 or 3. But anyway, so if the power goes out, those pumps shut off. If those pumps shut off, they generate the overflow or the extra water and the pressure for the pressure tank. There's a little generator in there, and it generates and it stores the water, and it also pressurizes the system because from there the water gets sent out to each resident that way. And so if you lose power, you lose the pressure, and in a very short amount of time, within a day, that the tank pressure will go down and your back storage of water will also go down. So it causes a problem. So I think they were talking about a generator. They also needed a new tank. So they're talking about was it 60,000 for a new pressure tank?
Or is that how many gallons?
Or is that a 60,000 gallon tank? Yeah, I'm not really sure. So
there's a lot of components with the water system. It's very costly to have a water system, and I know Zim and Richard spend a lot of time dealing with the water system.
They do.
So it's not such an easy thing, and again, that's why the mayor position ends up being so much more time, especially for him because he deals with the water.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot going on. I know there was some comments that the water is clear, and there was positive comments.
So the filters are in place over at plant number 1. So it comes up out of the ground, goes through I'm simplifying things, but the water gets pumped out of the ground right there at pump 1, which is over on State Road 24. It goes through the filtration system. It goes through these tall, I don't know what they are, separators of some sort, filters. And then it gets pumped over to plant number 2. Plant number 2 puts it into a storage tank, and it gets pressurized. And then it goes out to the residents. So there's 2 water stations.
I know Zim was talking about having an open house of the water system on the 1st from 11 to 1, talking about barbecuing some hamburgers and hot dogs and something about a bounce house. So that would be great. I know they've done the open house before when I was the mayor, and Zim brought everybody through to explain everything. I didn't get to attend that because I think I had to attend some other meeting. But it's very informative, and it really helps the people in the town to understand the biggest component, actually, of the town being a town, which is their water system. So
and how fragile the system really is. And I'll tell you, one tree or one storm can take out the water supply for the whole town. And that's all the campgrounds. So you could have 100 people in those 2 campgrounds. You could have another 100 people in the town. So for a couple hundred people can be out of water, that day. If you have a limb hit that tank in the wrong place, which has happened, it's and only 1 or 2 people know how to work on it. That's it.
So I think it's awesome that they're doing an open house to help involve the citizens in the town to the biggest component to actually understand the different stuff. So that's great.
Yeah.
And especially to have a bounce house if they do, and hamburgers and hot dogs, a little cookout. It's more things to involve and bring everybody together. And that's what's needed in that town too, because there's so much division. Everybody just needs to come together and get over a lot of stuff. I think that's another big problem we have in our society anyway, is everybody holds grudges. There's a lot of miscommunication, and
people start picking sides for the wrong reasons.
You have to just let some things go.
Let it go.
Just forgive and let go, because to hold on to all that stuff is it's not worth it.
So if Zim is, in fact, and I being a little bit hypothetical, if he is in fact extending an olive branch to Russell, I wouldn't right away shut that down. I'm saying just be cautious. Just be aware. If they can work together on the system,
I think that would be great. That's
great.
What's needed for
a little bit
olive
more.
branches to be extended, for people to come together to do positive things, because that's the best way to make things work right.
And it could create a checks and balance. Hey, am I doing this right? Yes, I think you're doing it right. Am I doing this right? Yes, I think you're doing that right. And maybe it can be a little check and some communication. And we don't see all that goes on behind the scenes. So I say, oh man, I hope if they are doing that, I hope it's amicable, and I hope it benefits the town.
I hope this new year brings more positivity and peace, and people working together and finally saying, let's bury the hatchet, let's work together for the greater good.
Kind of trust but verify.
So hopefully that happens. Pray about it, because it would be great to see.
Yeah.
I know they were also talking about, they announced the candidates, which that was wonderful.
Oh.
So, yay. I know they were you can't campaign on town hall property, so they can't do a meet the candidate at the town hall, even though most people think, well, that's the most neutral location.
Right, you're not allowed.
It's against policy to campaign there. So, which is why we tried again to have it at the church, because that was the only other neutral property in the town.
Right.
So I don't know that they'll be doing any kind of meet the candidate event. Hopefully they can at least get out there in some fashion and talk to people as much as possible. They'll have to figure that one out.
Now, I think in a small community, they could actually write an ordinance allowing I don't know if it's really campaigning. Reword it.
So yes, it would be very helpful for the candidates to get out there and talk to the people in some fashion. So hopefully they figure something out along those lines.
Neighbors helping neighbors.
Yes, that's what that town needs.
Yep.
A lot of that. Then Laura Mott had brought up the animal control, which that's another thing that has been talked about so many times throughout the years, because she was walking her dog and there was, I believe she said, 3 other dogs coming after her, which we had that problem a lot in that town. But they cannot have animal control. It's the same reason as the code enforcement. You need a review board to do appeals processes for any cases, and they don't have the resources to have an appeals board to review anything. So the same reason they can't enforce any of the ordinances for the code enforcement is the same reason they can't do anything with the animals. Now, what the Zim was saying is that they all pay county taxes. The county should pick up and do something about it since they pay tax money. So they were talking about they might have to go attend one of the county meetings and have a talk with the county commissioners about it. And I think they should, because this has gone on for too long and they do pay tax dollars. And I don't see why the county isn't helping with that anyway. It's not like it would be that much to do.
It's not that much out of their way.
I'm pretty sure that once you started picking up animals, that problem will correct itself pretty quick.
Yeah.
And usually it's the same few people that have these stray animals. So even
it's only a handful,
even if they did get more to run around, you know, it's a quick, easy thing. So I hope the county does come and help them out with that. Certainly they're paying tax dollars and they should. So it's not like they have to go that far out of their way for it.
Right.
So hopefully that does happen, but I think they will have to start attending some county meetings for that to happen.
Yeah, we used to go to a couple of them.
You know, and it's good for them to do anyway. They should be attending those meetings anyway to find out what's going on in the county. At least one board member should be attending, if not all the board members, if possible.
Yeah.
I know schedule don't always allow it because they do like to have those county meetings
in the morning.
In the mornings when most people are at work.
Right.
Excuse me, but I know they do have audio capability to listen into the meetings, and there is an archive that you can listen to. So you can at least find out what happened after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't know if they live stream or anything, but what else were we talking about? Now I know they were talking too with the water that, you know, not anytime soon, but when they do the pipeline, the people's water bills will go up and they'll also have a sewer bill attached to that. But that could be years, anywhere from 3 to 10 years.
It could,
So they got quite a while before they have to start worrying about that so much. But I know it is costly and there'll be lots of things they have to look for, and there should be grants that they can find to help with that process of tying into that system.
Because the county's really trying to do away with septic tanks overall in the county.
Right.
So they'll need some of the town's feedback and participation for that to work.
It's another one of those things where the people need to work together to have this common goal accomplished. So it'll happen. I know living in Ocala, they did the same thing, and the county did help out with loans, and then they had a grant to help the people cover the cost.
Yeah.
So if there's a will, there's a way, and if everyone works together, things will get done. Let's see, I know still we are talking about the website
My goodness.
some more, and I I don't know exactly where that stands. I do think that if GatorWorks is still with that contract, they need to look outside for a different company to help do the website. You know, not for nothing, but if GatorWorks is the only company there in Chiefland, they probably have a lot going on, and they don't really have time to do it.
I think they could find somebody better, more proactive, and cheaper if they went to Gainesville and outsourced it, because you got more competition in Gainesville.
That might be true, but you know, it's just a shame if GatorWorks is overworked. I think they just need to let the town know that they don't have time for that. I'm speculating at this point because I don't know exactly
They're
what's
taking their
going
money
on.
and they're not doing anything. That's the problem I have.
But I know if they got a working website, that would be so helpful. So hopefully they can get that accomplished. You know, I hope for the best for them. I know there's not a lot of local places, and I know everybody likes to have a local place because they think that's easier, but for this type of thing, it's not really necessary to have local.
It's not. It's a website, so they can do it from their remote office.
Yeah, so I think that's about it. They did announcements. You know, you got the children's table, and then I believe they're having the next Wackasassa meeting in Bronson.
Okay.
I think that might even be tomorrow.
Yeah, it's usually a day or two after the meeting.
Let me check the agenda because I did not write that down. Yes, it will be tomorrow.
In Bronson.
Yeah, February 19th at 1 o'clock in the Bronson building there.
Yeah. And so there was a lot going on in the meeting, like you say. Now some of it's less interesting to some people than, you know, other stuff. I find it all fascinating. If I was living there, I'd be like, oh man, I want to know.
Well, you know, the great thing about a small town is you have the opportunity to be involved.
Yeah.
To make that small town part of you and what's going on. You have a say-so. You can easily be heard. You're not in a huge town of thousands where you may not get as much voice time, but you actually can be part of it and make your town better. So I would think more people would want to get involved.
Yeah, we've had comments too in the chat sometimes that, you know, well, why don't you get involved in the community where you live? Well, we don't live in a township. We have a town address for mail delivery, but we live in the county. So it would be like us living in Otter Creek, but outside of Otter Creek in the county. So we live out in the county. So we get the county services. We don't have any problems out here with the services. We get water, and it's spring-fed water, and it's less than what Otter Creek is paying for their water, and now they can drink it, but look what it takes to get drinkable water.
And there was no public comment.
Yeah.
So I guess that's good.
That's kind of a wrap.
The meeting was about 27 minutes long.
About where it should be, I think.
Well, I mean, I think a good hour is good, but
yeah, I would encourage more comments, public comments. I would not be shutting down public comments. I'd want to hear them, and I would even answer some of the questions. Now, that's not a place to bring your personal water bills. You can take that during, you know, that should go to Belinda during office hours.
Yeah.
But town water in general, or town questions, animal control, the filters, the pumps, budgeting, the community center, all these questions can come before the board. And I think they should be able to be answered in the board. Now, if you're trying to find a gotcha moment and ask some personal questions, that's not the place for that. And I would just shut that down. But keep it professional, and legitimate questions, I think, should be entertained at the end of the meeting and answered at the end of the meeting. Be completely transparent.
But
you know,
I hope this trend of having good positive meetings continues to go forward.
I hope it goes into May, June, July.
Yep, even after the elections.
That'd be great.
No matter who gets on the board, I hope that lessons have been learned and people can learn how to work together positively for a good common goal.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's my wish and prayers for the town of Otter Creek. And I'll continue to pray and keep cheering them on and hoping for good stuff, because everybody deserves to live in peace, to have good, clean water. And just it helps your overall health just to be able to be in a positive state.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish that for them. Everybody deserves it.
And to love your neighbor. That's not to be in love with your neighbor, but to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right. It's not always an easy
get along.
task.
That's
It's
all it
really
is.
not, but it is
Right.
what God has commanded us to do. And we've all been guilty of reacting wrongly at times to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope as people get older that they get wiser and they can definitely learn to let stuff go. And if somebody is just that toxic, just stay away from them, but
Mm-hmm.
don't engage with them.
Right.
So you can't have a war with only one person. It becomes a back and forth when two parties are going back and forth. So hopefully that becomes a peaceful place to live.
Yeah. So we thank you once again for joining us here at Madam Mayor's Adventures as we cover the post-meeting of the Otter Creek Council.
Thank you for bearing with me while I am a little bit under the weather still.
Yeah.
And coughing and sniffling. I apologize. I appreciate everybody's well wishes. And hopefully this goes away soon.
Hopefully by our live on Sunday, it's all cheery and happy.
That would be so great, because I am sick of being sick.
Yeah, it gets old quick.
But I do appreciate everybody out there, your positive vibes, your well wishes. Keep doing that everywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We thank you guys. You guys have a good evening, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace. Love y'all.
Love you guys. Bye.